Hi, this is Larry with Mancave Mayhem. Today we're doing some more accessories on the CT125. And like I said before, I want to modify this bike a little bit, but more with just accessories. I don't want to modify the engine or do anything that would keep it from its stock nature. So I kind of like the quiet muffler. I like the low and slow. I'm not trying to use this for a freeway runner. I ride my Triumph if I want to get going fast. So this is my low and slow fun machine. So anyhow, I recently went on a search for a taillight guard for this bike, and I came across this taillight guard, which is actually pretty well built. And these things are normally, they're kind of pricey. I was looking at some of them, they were like 60 or 70 bucks. And this particular taillight guard, it's a True 4. It says True, I guess it's True 4. And you know, some generic brand, I'm sure it's made in Taiwan or whatever. Came with all the hardware and the brackets necessary for this CT. And it was 16 bucks. And this is fairly heavy duty. It's not a bad taillight guard. So we'll throw that box away and we're gonna get to mounting this taillight guard. We'll see how it works, and I'll show you guys the process and we'll get this thing mounted. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Check us out at Instagram at mancave_mayhem. Now let's get on with the video. Here's the tools you'll need for this project. You're gonna need a 5mm Allen, a 6mm Allen. I've got a 1/4" drive ratchet, 10mm socket, and an 8mm socket, and of course, the wonderful thread lock. Make sure it's blue, not red. Red will be really tough to get off, but that's what you're gonna need for this project. Pretty simple. Now, before we get started on this, I just wanted you guys to see the quality of this. Like I said, it ended up being about $18 after shipping and everything, and it might even have been free shipping. But it's kind of a satin finish. The welds aren't perfect, but they're not terrible. And there's the welds. The only negative thing I would say is there's no like plastic finishing end caps on these. But you know, it came with all the hardware. So not a bad, I'm not disappointed for the price at all, especially compared to some of the other ones that were on the internet for, you know, 57 to 70 bucks. So unfortunately, there's no directions on this, so you're gonna have to bear with me, but we're gonna figure this out and I'm gonna show you guys how to install it. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're gonna wanna do is we wanna remove this bracket here for the license plate bracket, because the bottom support on this bracket here, let me get this in the camera, where this mounts to this. And the only thing I can figure is it goes up behind the reflector right here, or in this ballpark. The holes don't actually line up to this, but I think it mounts behind here. So we're gonna go ahead and get this removed. And I think that's gonna take a 10mm socket. Okay, where you're gonna wanna access that is right under the rear fender here. You can see those three. There's 1, 2, and then there's one right here. You can see it. That should free this bracket, license plate bracket. That's what we're gonna wanna do first. So let's get started. All right, so that was relatively simple, and we've removed these 3 cap screws. And as you can see now, this should just slide right out. And boom, see, that's off. So now we're at step 2. All right, now once we got this off, you're gonna wanna go on the back side of this, and you can see this behind the reflector that's holding the reflector on. It's an 8mm nut. So we're gonna take that off. Ooh, and that's on there tight. And we're gonna get that taken off. Now, as you can see, there's 3 holes there. And those holes are gonna line up with the holes on this plate. So we're gonna take that off. I don't know if we're gonna be reusing that reflector or not. Unfortunately, all they've given us is 4 bolts. So we will be resecuring this with the existing reflector. I think they should have provided bolts for that. But we'll resecure it with this. Doesn't seem like a super strong hold, but also looking at this, the center hole for this is very small. You may have to drill that out. But like I said, for 18 bucks, I'll put up with a few little flaws. So it looks like I'm gonna probably have to drill this hole out just a little bit. So we'll get that done and I'll get back with you. So now that I've got that hole drilled out, they did not provide any bolts for this particular bracket. So I'm going to use the existing reflector as the bracket or the mounting point. And this just kind of goes on the front of this like this, from what I can tell. I'm not sure which way that faces though. I think it faces this way. We're going to check it. But yeah, I believe it faces backwards. And that upper lip goes on the top, kind of references it. And then we're just going to put that 8mm back on. If you wanted to be super strong, I would recommend doing running another type of a couple bolts in that, and then just eliminating the reflector. I'm going to go ahead and leave the reflector on. I'm not going to be doing anything crazy on this bike, so we'll leave the reflector on. This is mainly for fun and looks. So now that that's on and secure, I believe that's the way it's supposed to be. You can see how that bracket sits. So I'm just going to check this and then we'll get back. All right, so now that we got that secured, this is the way the bracket goes on. I got it secured with one bolt. It's pretty stout. This whole bracket is pretty stout and heavy, so I don't think there's going to be an issue. If you really wanted to be super heavy duty, you could probably go for 2 more holes there and eliminate the reflector. I'm leaving the reflector on. You also have to be careful. These weird mushroom type washers or whatever you want to call them fell out from under the fender, so you got to be careful when you're putting this back in. These go on the underside of the fender and they go in these like that. So just want to make sure those stay in when we're putting this back on. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to get this back on the bike and then we'll go to the next step. Be careful as you're sliding this up under. It's a tight fit because it's also, you know, it's going up under the tail light. So you kind of want to get it in there very carefully, not scratch your fender up. See, now those fell out, so you're going to want to keep those from falling out too. It's kind of hard when you're doing it by yourself, but you can always slip them back in once you're in, once you've got it in. Once you have those back in, you're going to want to reinstall the 3 10mm cap screws. When I'm doing this, I also like to use a little Loctite because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And I wouldn't recommend using red. Use the blue Loctite. It's just a lot easier to get off if you need to take it off again. Then once you get that secured, you want to tighten that back up with your 10mm ratchet, and then we'll move on to the next step. Next step in the process, you're going to want to remove these Allen head bolts, and they're right, you can see where they're at. They're kind of right behind the tail light here. And you're going to need a number 5 Allen key or a 5mm Allen key. All right, at this point in the process, you can see there's some washers here. I'm going to leave those washers there. They just kind of stayed in place. Now, the provided hardware that they gave me, the 5mm Allen bolts, I am going to use. I'm also going to use these provided spacers that need to go right here before we put the bracket over that. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm also going to add a little, they gave us some washers to go with these. I'm not sure what size washers they're going to want us to use on these upper ones. I think the smaller washers. So we're going to do that. We'll put these washers on. So I'm going to put the washer on this. And I'm trying to do this with 2 hands, and I probably need 5. So we're going to go ahead and put some of this wonderful blue Loctite on so the bike doesn't fall apart when I go down dirt roads, which is always a nice secure feeling to know that you're not going to fall apart going down a dirt road. So now we're going to run this up. You can see the gap And I am going to put this spacer right behind this if I can. And with the spacer behind it, then I'm going to put the Allen screw in and get it started. And then I'm going to leave it loosely fitted on that. And then we'll repeat the same process on the other side. The trick is to finding the threads on this thing. It's kind of tricky, but I'm sure we can do it. Once you found the threads, repeat the process on the other side. Now we've got that loosely secured. We're going to move to this hole right here. We're going to add the larger washer and this button head screw, which again is another 5mm screw, and we'll be adding some beautiful Loctite to that. Once we do that on this side, we'll repeat the process on the other side. All right, now that we got those in, now we're going to take the two provided Allen bolts and use our 6mm or number 6, whatever you want to call it, Allen key. I think it's 6mm. And then we're going to secure those in this bottom location right here. Doesn't line up perfectly, but you just have to jimmy it a little bit and it'll line right up. We're obviously going to put some Loctite on that because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Then we'll repeat the process on the other side, around the other side, and then we'll sequentially tighten those all up. I think that's the right word to use. Yeah, sequentially. All right, that's going to about do it for this project. We buttoned this thing up. It's actually really durable, and for the price, 18 bucks, man, I couldn't go wrong. So keep your eyes out on the internet for these things. They work great. Looks like it's going to protect the light wonderfully. It also will act as an extra handle if you pull the bike over or whatever. It's nice to grab onto. So you got a little extra handle there. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and check us out at Instagram at Mancave_Mayhem. Make sure you hit me up for questions or comments. I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can. Sometimes I'm out of cell service or I'm busy, but that doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. So leave me a comment below and I'll get back to you. And just remember, I'm just a man in a cave causing mayhem. Thanks again for watching.